Okay, so now this is a reaction video in a way. A lot of life is about reactions. Somebody called TechLinked, I've never heard of him before, made a video called Adobe's Big Oopsie, which Adobe is pushing AI these days or something like that. I don't know who this guy is. He just showed up in my feed. And I don't know if he's in my feed because of, my interest in Adobe alternatives or my interest in like AI and how you AI alternatives, not using AI. I've tried Adobe, I've tried AI, I've tried AI on Adobe. And this is, am I recording or is this a photograph? It's recording. Yeah, good. So, real life, not AI, little wet patch on the shirt. Let's Photoshop that. Get that out. That was the old expression. 20, 30 maybe years ago. Maybe still 20 years ago. Before AI was, AI modified, computer modified stuff, Photoshop was the big thing. And back then, I liked Photoshop alternatives. I found GIMP to be kind of useless. Not necessarily because the user interface was ugly, but because it had problems with the computers I was using. However, most programs that I tried survived and worked. Well, survived. Actually, most of them didn't survive. Now, Adobe survived throughout the years. I don't know if Corel still exists. There were all sorts of Serif. Serif changed its branding to Affinity, so that stopped existing, but a lot of the old serif products. And, Adobe was still holding strong, but when they bought Macromedia, they dropped a few things here and there. They had some really good line art program. I can't even remember the name of it, but I had that with like the Macromedia thing that I got the full set that you could buy and keep until your computer updated, and then you had to get a new one anyway. But I spent so much money on that Macromedia thing, and then it was bought by Adobe, and Adobe wouldn't even count some of it eventually as a for the upgrades, and I was a bit annoyed. And then upgrades didn't count anymore anyway because you had this online thing, right? So the CS6 or whatever didn't even really. It was just theoretical. You had to download onto your computer, but you're not really buying it. You're subscribing to a service. Didn't really like that. So I've been looking at alternatives long before, and I'm not the only one. Peppa Pig, was that done in? It looks like a Flash cartoon, but I found out it was done in CelAction. Then there's ToonBoom, and there are a few programs that look about Simpsons Futurama. I don't know if Simpsons and Futurama are among them, but that's about the type of quality and style that they had were done in ToonBoom. And there were programs TV programs, right, that I kind of heard of. Then there's this thing called Mojo or something like that, Cartoon Mojo, and I don't really know a lot of programs in the English language that were made in that, or I don't know which ones were. But I know that you can use it. It's a pretty good program. It's versatile and everything like that. Couldn't give you a full review of using it, but yeah, so a lot of people recommend it. If I don't think my computer that I'm filming this on can do it. Two that I have used that I can recommend personally are Blender and Cartoon Animator. Another that I haven't used for many animations, but I used for still things, Clip Studio Paint. And all of these three, you don't have that same model of software as a service. Okay, Clip Studio Paint you can pay for as Studio as a service, and are they in trouble that they have to do that because they're not getting enough from people just buying the regular one? Well, you can also buy stuff on it, like clip art or like ready-made things for your program. Now AI might be getting that a little bit in danger because clip art type stuff. Clip art might be a bad, but you can buy elements like brushes and everything like that. So if you want to do artistic projects or even professional ones, recommend. I've seen some great stuff in Blender. I've made some stuff that was fun to make that proved to me that it's capable, that I believe that other stuff is made in Blender. Cartoon Animator is limiting, but it's not as limiting as like those ready-made online only, kid stuff. You just throw it as, you can do a lot with it. And you can make something like a South Park type of thing. In fact, they had these little characters that were, people would accuse you of plagiarizing South Park if you bought one of those characters. They have a lot of ready-made content on there. Ready-made characters and ready-made movements, but you put your own words into it, and it's that crazy talk stuff. It automatically says your words, so that saves a lot of time. It's not the only one that does that, but they've been doing it for a long time. So that brand, Real Illusion, for the easy stuff that looks to a certain level professional. I don't know about a feature film, but yeah, you could do a lot of things with that. Cartoon Animator. Blender, if you have a team of experts who know how to do stuff, definitely. You can do flat stuff on Blender as well, so it doesn't have to be like 3D. Bit more difficult to use maybe than some of the Adobe things, but I don't think it's that much. Another one that I didn't put on the list is the Apple Motion. This is if you want to make kind of like 2D effects things. You can do the same stuff with Apple Motion. I don't know how much I trust Apple to keep that as a product, because they got rid of Final Cut 7. So this is where the longevity, who's going to do it? The Cartoon Animator's got a lot of users. They're making some money off of that. It's still fun to use, even if you're not professional type of thing. So it's got that. Blender's got a lot of users, and it's got some professionals. You can put money into Blender as much as you want. So you say, oh, this is worth it. I'm going to help support the community, support the project, put some money into it. Pretty easy. So you can basically choose your own price. So, you can use it for free technically, but you feel guilty about that, put some money into it, make the project work, because, they allow you to do what you want with it. So Blender would be my first choice if you have time and talent, right? If you have less time and talent, but you have creativity, Cartoon Animator. If you have more creativity and you want to break the limits a bit, Clip Studio Paint. But Clip Studio Paint can do a lot of things to make it. It's got a lot of pre-made content there. Blender doesn't. It's got a little bit that if you subscribe and you pay for it, and you can find pre-made content for Blender all over the internet. It's not as well organized, but the Blender itself, if you pay, you become a sponsor of them. There's some subscription thing which will give you some content you can download and play with. So, and then CelAction, Peppa Pig, some Danish programs I've never heard of that I'm sure some Danish people have heard of, some other TV shows I kind of vaguely remember the name of, but not enough to like pop into my head right then. ToonBoom again. This is some high quality things that I don't remember the names of, but the same level of production quality as Simpsons or Futurama type of thing. So those programs, if they're not made in ToonBoom, if you're making them in Flash, you can go put them in ToonBoom. And this is the thing that I started with though. If you don't know how to use these, I can't use these. Here's the deal, right? If you can use one, you can use another. I've gone from I use this Sophocles screenwriting program. I know screenwriting is much simpler. It doesn't have as many things. Broke down. The computer broke down, and the company went bust, so couldn't do it anymore. Had to get the little text thing and somehow convert it to use a script in another program. It happened. I made it work. Maya. We use that at university. I had the student version at home, an old computer that has been scrapped for a while, that I haven't seen in over 6 years. But when Maya, didn't get the student version, you get $1,000 or something was a month or something subscription, something crazy, makes Adobe look cheap. I had used Blender a bit before, but I got more serious about Blender because it's open source, so even if Blender goes out of business, or whatever, however a nonprofit happens to it, you can use those files and put them in another program, just like you could with, OpenOffice. You can take those to LibreOffice, or maybe even you can take them to Microsoft and to Google Docs and everything like that. You got sick of there was a Star Office that used to exist. It was a free one that was made by Sun Microsystems, and you could take those to Microsoft Office or Google Docs or OpenOffice or all these little things. WordPerfect goes all over the place, and sometimes these files are difficult to open, but you can always find some converter, especially if it's from an open source program. You can find somebody who can make it work on another computer, and you can take these Blender things, like if Blender becomes like OpenOffice, where the creators don't like it anymore, and there's somebody else who does a LibreOffice version on Blender, that will continue. If it doesn't have to happen, Blender can probably survive because it seems to keep with its mission. But if for some reason it goes off of its mission, those files will still be usable on another program. Just like there's a TIFF files that you can use in Photoshop. TIFF was some other program. What was TIFF? What program was TIFF? Most people who use TIFF don't know. You can search it, look it up, and where it comes from. RTF files. A lot of these different files that exist now, some of them were proprietary to begin with. If they're popular enough, they're going to continue to exist, especially if it's open source, right? It's going to continue. It's not going to go away. So just I would suggest those are the 3 I know from experience. Well, 4 I know from experience. Apple Motion, it's good, but limiting. Blender you can use on any computer. Clip Studio Paint you can use on lots of computers. A Cartoon Animator you can use on lots of computers. Apple Motion's a bit more limiting, has to be an Apple computer, but and then there's, maybe not any computer. I can't use Blender on this one. But ToonBoom, CelAction, Mojo, these ones I can't say from personal experience, but I can still recommend them because I've just seen from third-hand things. I would be ready to, if I had the money, somebody says, okay, you need to make this project, get these people right away, we need to get this done, and I only have like a few, and saying, okay, which program are you going to use? And I say, let's try Blender. It's like, no, we don't have anyone who can do Blender. I'm saying CelAction, saying, no, it's like, yeah, I know these people, I can find these credits, and it's like, okay, let's do CelAction, see if we can hire these people. I could do that with CelAction, ToonBoom, or Mojo. I could get a project going if I had the budget type of thing to do one. So those ones I would also recommend that I would use them if we had the budget to bring a project forward with one of those things. Definitely would feel safe with one of those. Cartoon Animator would not feel safe with it. Adobe's went back on its idea to cancel it, but I don't trust them. I think but of course, if I used it before, if I could find people who knew how to use Blender and were brilliant at it, had a big enough budget to use a full team, Blender. If it was 2D, Clip Studio Paint. If it was simple, not it didn't have to, maybe we wanted to do really quick, so you didn't have time to make it completely original. You want to have some ready-made characters in there with your new characters, ready-made sets and whatever. Cartoon Animator. Very low budget. Even though Blender's software is cheaper, I think in the long run, Cartoon Animator would be the lowest budget. But yeah, those are my recommendations. Anyway, I think you should have a great day. If one person in the world finds this useful, that would be great. That would inspire me to look more into this. But yeah, let's see. We'll get a little bit more in detail. Hopefully in the future, we'll try one of these out and be able to show you a little bit more of what these things can do. I can't guarantee it at the moment because, as I said, look at this computer here. Can't even do Blender. There's another one that I kind of have access to that has Blender on it. We'll try that. Okay, see you later.